So one of the main three components of our work right now in the evolving engineering portfolio space is centered around the work of the Engineering Change Lab. But it's basically the concept of extending the lab platform. For the first year of the lab, there was a group of 40 organizations and leaders who were really doing a lot of the foundational work. Now as we're entering the second year of the lab, we're looking at how can we actually catalyze a wider dialogue in Canada. And that'll be the focus of this year, and then hopefully we'll start to see the seeds this year of more cohesive and pointy actions that are being catalyzed by that wider dialogue as well too. But the big focus this year is on the dialogue. So the Engineering Change Lab in general is conceptualized as an ongoing platform for deepening shared understanding and for supporting experimentation. And so in this year, within the chapters, we're suggesting that the deepen shared understanding agenda is a great one for us to focus on. And so within that, we'll be able to help to connect and support different initiatives and help them to find coherence and convergence. And we can really leverage lab thinking in doing this. So the three keys to the Change Lab approach are working systemically. So what are those deeper root causes that are underneath the symptoms we're seeing in the system? How can we actually understand things at deeper and deeper levels and find the leverage points that will really fundamentally shift the system? Second is to work collaboratively. And this is big C collaboration. Like, it means actually truly aligning on a vision level with different organizations and working together to put the greater needs of the greater potential of the overall profession first. And finally is this concept of working experimentally. So as EWBers, hopefully we've all been exposed to this concept of failing forward, and if you actually want to fundamentally shift the way a system works, you have to actually truly risk failure. And so to think of things as hypotheses and experiments as we go forth and try to shift the way things work. So this year, the reason that we're calling it Catalyze a CanadaWide Dialogue, which is a little bit different than what you got in your chapter planning process, which titled it as Extending the Lab Platform. In thinking about it more, we realized that the big focus that makes sense to begin with is this concept of catalyzing the Canada-wide dialogue. So there's been some really interesting conversations that have been happening in the lab. We just shared some of that with you in that summary videos of the vision. Now the idea is, how can we actually go out and catalyze dialogue across the country, bring more people into this thinking by templating workshops and by finding different ways like the videos to provoke conversation, and collect what's coming out of those dialogues across the country and feed them back into a central synthesis led by members of the lab to help make sense of all of the rich perspectives that are happening across the country. And we conceptualize this as an ongoing sort of process that is critical to building the evolutionary capacity of the profession. So in your chapter planning goals, you were able to pick from contribute, own, or lead chapter objectives related to this catalyzing a Canada-wide dialogue, or extending the lab platform, as it was originally titled. And basically, it's different levels of hosting convening events. And so you can run more convening events as you move from contribute to lead. At the contribute level, it's conceptualized more as probably within EWB, like tapping your EWB community to have some smaller scale events that get you sort of thinking about the latest thinking of the lab and interacting with it and providing some insights that can be fed back into the central synthesis. At the leading level, you can think about starting to convene broader dialogues at a city level or even a regional level, partnering with universities, partnering with companies, partnering with other organizations, and almost running, maybe an evening event or maybe a whole day event that's somewhat similar to the experience in a lab workshop, except where you're focusing more specifically on understanding the higher potential and less on progressing specific initiatives. That being said, we think that there's a great opportunity as you think about these events to actually pair them with things that are already going on at your chapter or in your area. So for example, if you were thinking about, or if one of your goals is to progress the global engineering certificate at your school and get a memo of understanding in place, what you might think about is running one of these dialogue events as a first part, and then as a second part of a workshop or a session, actually zooming in more specifically on the global engineering initiative. So, and the imperative for the certificate and why the school should champion it. So we think there's some great opportunities to pair this broader dialogue and thinking about the bigger potential of the overall profession with helping to forward some specific initiatives and to move that forward in your area. So in summary, on this idea of Catalyzing CanadaWide dialogue that's linked with the Engineering Change Lab work. It's about enhancing coherence and convergence in the system, basically extending that lab platform and bringing more people into that work. It's also a big opportunity to spread both the EWB and lab approach around working systemically, collaboratively, and experimentally. And as I said before, as a systems change leader, it's that opportunity to shift from working on the system to working with the system is a big way of thinking about it. So, as I said before, I am both the portfolio manager for the overall evolving engineering space, and I'm also the Engineering Change Lab animator. So in terms of getting support for these initiative areas, I'm sort of the point person for this area.